Rachel, the Earth Angel, and I'm back. The Most High God is telling me to tell my story, and so that's what I need to do. I am a practicing card reader, but I haven't started posting readings as of yet. So I'm going to start from the beginning. In the past, I've just read things that I've written down, but I think I'm just going to wing it, and I'm going to just talk like I'm visiting with somebody and go with what I remember. Right now, the situation is that my family members who I found out are still alive, which would be Sally Clyde, Larry Clyde, and Eric Clyde, along with my exes and some crooked local government officials and agents, FBI agents. They're all in a big world of hurt. They're all getting their karma served to them for coming up against me and trying to take everything from me. Excuse me, I'm going to shut my window. So, when I was little, I remember I was scared to death of everything. I was really frightened of everything, and I didn't know why. I knew that it was way beyond normal. And, I was afraid to go to school. I cried and cried when they dropped me off. I was just terrified. And after school, I would cry and cry, and the teachers would have to wait with me until my parents came, which they were never on time. And at the time, it was torturous. And I just kind of thought that my mom had things she had to do, which she didn't. My dad worked at the railroad, and she stayed home with us, but she was never on time to pick me up. And now in retrospect, I know why, because it was so traumatizing to me. She did it on purpose. She wanted me to be damaged in every way possible. They never told us we would amount to anything. They always, my dad always said that we were useless, good for nothing, which we were very highly intelligent. Tim was a seed of the devil, though. I'm not sure I guess Larry is his real dad. And he was probably conceived out of some sort of evil sexual ritual. And so he was born a demon seed. He was very evil, very sadistic, very violent from the time he was a small child. Eric was an introvert. He was really quiet, and he would, go off on the trails. He would go hunting or go, just digging in the creeks or whatever out in nature. From the time he was little, he just disappeared because he didn't want to deal with Tim. Tim was violent, like I said. He would tie us up, and he would hit us with wet handkerchiefs, whip us with them, and he would lock me in a chest. My mom had a chest that her brother's belongings were sent home from the war in. So it was one of those chests, and he would lock me in that chest until my mom got home in the evening. Because there was one point in time when she did work when I was really little, but not for long. But he would, he would handcuff me to a table or smother me or lock me in the box, and all day until he would see her coming down the driveway, and then he'd let me out and he would say that I was lying. But Eric got used to that. He got smart, and he would just disappear. Because he was, we're pretty close in age, all of us. And we were pretty little. But Tim was made ward of the court, I think, when he was like 11 or something. But he was always violent with everybody. He would attack my mom or my dad. And later on, as an adult, he did brutally beat and rape my mother. I didn't find that out until after her supposed death. But, and I can see, I mean, not that I excuse that behavior whatsoever, but her and my dad were sick individuals, which she's actually my grandmother, I'm pretty sure. She's Munchie's mom. I thought she was her older sister. If that is the case, then she would be my aunt. But I think that Munchie was conceived out of Sally being molested by her father, Carlos. And that is why my Sally was so full of hate. So her mother, well, I believe it was her mother, because her mother was actually married to Carlos's brother. Anyways, her mother raised Munchie as her little sister, but Munchie was my mom at any rate. And Larry is the brother of my dad, which I'm assuming is Andy Clyde, unless there was another Clyde that I didn't know about. There are some talks about my dad being in prison for life for a crime he didn't commit, but I don't know if that's, true or not. And if Andy is my dad, I'm not sure if he's still alive. If he's still alive, then he's in on all of this with them. But he was a star seed. He was an earth angel, my dad. So I really don't see him taking part in all of this, but it is possible. So at any rate, I was afraid of everything. I would not spend the night at my friend's house. I would cry and have to come home. If I lost sight of my mom in the grocery store, I would cry, and they would have to holler at her over the little CB thing. And, I just thought the world was going to end all the time, like at any moment. And I guess it's because I had known things. I remember being carefree. I remember being happy and carefree and singing all the time and giggling. And my brother Eric and I remember going to sleep, and that was, beautiful, because we could do anything. And we would go out to the cosmos. I showed him how to do it, and we would fly. We would meet in our sleep and go, astral travel. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was just natural. And then one time I remember, and it wasn't when we were sleeping, but I could levitate. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I was showing my brother Eric, and it kind of freaked him out, but I told him how to do it. And I remember us levitating up into the hallway in the house. And then I think when my mom came home, she saw us, or we showed her. I don't know, but she freaked out. And I assume that is when my parents put me into the MK Ultra program. She knew I was gifted when she stole me from my mother. I don't know if my mother knew where I went because I think she had put me up for adoption because her and my dad had split up. Um, so I don't know. My Sally had a baby girl. She had a baby girl of her own, but she sacrificed that baby. And I know I have pictures of both babies. There, it's supposed to be the same baby, and I have pictures. They're two different babies in two different high chairs in the same house, and one of them is me, and the other one is not me. But they were supposed to be. But at any rate, I don't know if Munchie knew where I was. I think later on, when my mom, after she died, and she went and she killed my grandpa, and I think that's when she killed my mother. Well, they killed my grandpa, and they killed my mother, I believe, then as well, which is sad because had I known, they were still alive. This was just 5 or so years ago, I believe, within 5 or so years ago. At any rate, I remember my mom talked bad about her all the time, and she called her a spoiled brat, and she said I was a lot like her, and I don't know why I didn't see it. My hair was just like hers, my figure is like hers, and I think my dad was in love with Munchie. Or not obviously my real dad, but I think that Larry had a thing for her as well, and my mom would get really mad whenever like her name came or something about my figure. My dad, she would say it was like hers, and my dad would say, "No, it would, no, it isn't. No, she doesn't look like you." So my mom was very, very jealous, very insecure, childish woman. And she introduced me to drugs when I was 11. I creeped up on her and my brother Tim in the Firebird in the driveway doing speed. They were doing, snorting some meth, and I busted them. And I says, "Well, if you're gonna do it, I want to do it too." And so she let me. She gave it to me, and she continued to do it with me throughout my life. She was a pain in the ass about it. She would come jonesing, and it was just annoying. And so I'd just be like, "Here, take it and go." And she did that intentionally. They tried to destroy me because she knew who I was. And my dad got me drinking alcohol when I was really, really little. He always was giving me his beer. And granted, I did wind up with cirrhosis uh, in like 2013. I had cirrhosis really bad, but I'm a healer, and I am a earth angel, and my healing abilities are amazing, and I got rid of it. I healed it, and I had hepatitis C from doing drugs, and I healed it, and I got rid of it, and there's no sign of it. There's no markers of it at all in my blood. Um, I've had kidney failure, and I've completely healed my kidneys. Uh, this was all before I knew I was a healer, but and when I was sick with the cirrhosis, I was pretty much prepared to die. I was very heavy alcoholic, and my ex-husband and I had been doing pills heavily, and you know, that's when we split up because he turned into a wacko. He was totally bipolar, and he was totally unhinged. He like had like personality disorder or something, but he was possessed. I see now. And my mother did that to all of my boyfriends. I remember my boyfriend in high school, I was in love with him. He was my sweetheart, my high school sweetheart. We were together for 4 years. I got off drugs and everything. And we were so happy. And then that same face expression that came over my boyfriends and husband after him later on, they all looked the same. As soon as she did spell work on him, he just looked weird. He'd do drugs and his eyes turned wacko and he started hallucinating. He was just evil. He was evil, and I didn't know why at the time. But my mom split us up. She did that. She did that on purpose because she was so jealous that she didn't want me to be happy. So she split up my high school sweetheart and I. And then I was married and to my first husband. I was really happy. He was my best friend, Jake Vandegraaff. Really happy, but they couldn't get to him. He was not touchable as far as getting to him like that, like these other people. He wouldn't be bought. He loved me, and he was very, he was loyal, and she couldn't stand that, and so she got Johnny Minchinella to come into my life because he had been at my 16th birthday party and she did drugs with him and I had turned him down because he tried to kiss me. Turned him down. I did not want him. I liked somebody else, and he was very jealous and he was very upset about it. And he went up to my mom's and they were doing drugs and whatnot, talking about me. And she knew how much he hated me for that because he had for a long time because I dated his best friend. And so, you know, when she saw me happy with Jake, she brought Johnny back into my life. Of course, she did spell work on me and she did spell work on him, but on me. And I was taken aback by it. I fell in love with him, and it destroyed my marriage to Jacob. And that was what she wanted. She was happy about that. And then after Johnny went back to Oklahoma and my marriage was shit. I was doing all right, living by myself, doing pretty good, and I was gonna go move out of state